Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time of day it is and whatever part of the world you're at. Welcome back, and today we're going to do another review question about quadratics. We're going to take a look at number 2. Number 2 reads, if the polynomial below is completely factored, which expressions represent its factors? And it says check all that apply. Now the main thing we need to stay focused on is completely factored. So when we begin factoring this polynomial here, we need to make sure that once we're done, we need to make sure that it's completely factored. And in other words, we need to make sure while we're factoring it that it cannot be factored again, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like when we factor it. We have, what's this, number 2, 64x to the 4th y minus 36x squared y. All right. Now, right away, the first thing we should try to do is do our greatest common factor. So we need to find the GCF between these two, between 64 and 36, and the variables as well, but we'll save the variables part for last, so we'll do the numbers first. So when factoring these numbers here, we have 1 times 64, 2 times 32, 4 times 16, and 8 times 8. I think that's it, yeah. Now, when we do the 36, we factor that. That's going to be 1 times 36, 2 times 18, 4 times 9, and 6 times 6. And then underneath, we'll write out the factors for we'll expand the variables, the exponent components for the variables. So x to the 4th is 4 x's, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 y. And then x squared is 2 x's and 1 y. Okay. So looking for greatest common factor, which means the largest factor that they both share in common, that would be 4. And then as far as the variables, the most x's that we can take from each factor is 2 x's, and the most y's is just 1 y. Okay. We also need to make sure we circle this entire factor pair, so that way we know what the leftovers are going to be. So now, factoring this, we factored out a 4 and an x squared and a y. All right. Next, what were the leftovers? So let's erase that right there. For the numbers, we have for 64 divided by 4 is 16. And then we have x squared left with that, because there were 2 x's still left over. And then negative 36 divided by positive 4 is going to give us negative 9. And the 9, we don't have any more variables for that term. So now that we factor that, we need to take a look at both of these factors here. And the first factor, 4x squared y, that's just a monomial. We can't factor that anymore. However, this binomial here in parentheses can still be factored. So if we take a look here, we can rewrite it. 16x squared minus 9. What we can do here, this is a difference of squares. So we could take the square root of 16x squared, and we could take the square root of 9. When we take the square root of both of those, square root of 16x squared is 4x, square root of 9 is 3. So when we write our factors in the final form, we still need to bring down the 4x squared y, that's on the outside. Now our factors for 16x squared minus 9 are going to become 4x minus 3 and 4x plus 3. Now we factor completely. So this is in all 3 of these are factors. This is a factor, that's a factor, and 4x plus 3 is a factor. And we know that this is factored completely. We can't factor it anymore. Now we just need to go back to number 2, the answer choices, and take a look. So looking at number 2, says check all of them that apply when it's factored completely. Well, 4x squared y, that's right here, so we'll check that box. 4x minus 3, check. And 4x plus 3, check.